How you doing? I'm Gordon Heinzman. I am an undocumented professor. Interpretation of the term gentleman by Ruskin. Two great errors, coloring or rather discoloring severely the minds of the higher and lower classes, have sown wide dissension and wider misfortune through society of modern days. These errors are in our own modes of interpreting the word gentleman. Its primal, literal, and perpetual meaning is a man of pure race, well bred in the sense that a horse or dog is well bred. The so-called higher classes, being generally of purer race than the lower, have retained the idea and convictions associated with it, but are afraid to speak it out and equivocate about it in public. This equivocation mainly proceeding from their desire to connect other meaning with it, and a false one, that of a man living in idleness on other people's labor, with which the term has nothing to do whatsoever. The lower classes, denying vigorously and with reason the notion that a gentleman means an idler, and rightly feeling that the more anyone works, the more of a gentleman he becomes, and is likely to become, have nevertheless got little of the good they otherwise might from the truth, because with it they wanted to hold a falsehood, namely, that race was of no consequence, it being precisely as much consequence in man as in any other animal. Well, that's kind of racist. Ruskin, I don't know if I like where you're going with this one. That's why I consider even the term race to be racist. Okay, we're not in a race. I'm not trying to beat you. I'm sorry, I don't run unless I'm being chased or chasing. And I'm not chasing after anyone, and believe you me, it's been a few years since anyone's been chasing after me. Now, continuing on. The nation cannot truly prosper till both these errors are finally gotten quit of. Gentlemen have to learn that there is no part of their duty or privilege to live on other people's toil. They have to learn that there is no degradation in the hardest manual or the hardest servile labor when it be honest, but that there is degradation, and that deep, in extravagance, in bribery, in indolence, in pride, in taking places they are not fit for, and in coining places for which there is no need. It does not disgrace a gentleman to become an errand boy, a day laborer, but it disgraces him much to become a knave or a thief. Knavery is not less knavery because it involves large interests, nor the theft the less because it is countenanced by usage or accompanied by failure in the untaken duty. Okay, now knavery is being a fool, an idiot, an actor. And he's saying it doesn't matter if you're getting paid a great amount of money, you're still just acting, you're still just a knave. And just the same way that robbery, it doesn't excuse you to say, well, I did great things with it, and I'll agree with that term. On the other hand, the lower orders and all orders have to learn that every vicious habit and chronic disease communicates itself by descent, and that by purity of birth the entire system of the human body may gradually be elevated, or by recklessness of birth degraded until there be as much difference between the well-bred and the ill-bred human creature, whatever pains be taken with their education, as between a wolfhound and the vilest mongrel cur, and that this knowledge of the great fact ought to regulate the education of our youth and entire conduct of the nation. Well, how do you like that? Now, if those ideas seem vile to you, as they do to me, realize this: those ideas do regulate the education of our youth. It's called evolution. You can't have different races evolved over the space of millions of years with all these differences without telling me that one of them isn't more evolved or less evolved. Now, I don't believe that. I believe that we were created in the image of God. God created Adam and Eve, and we're all descended from them. And again, we're all descended from Noah and his children, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which were all born of Noah. And I think it's interesting, that a lot of people want to say, use the Bible as their stance for racism. When if you look carefully and you see that when Moses brought the children of Israel out of there, there's a time where Miriam and Aaron, the high priest, and Moses' older sister, who herself put Moses in the basket and followed him to the Pharaoh's daughter to make sure he's all right, turned against Moses and the people with him and rebelled against him and were giving him guff basically because of Moses' Ethiopian wife. A lot of people don't realize that the daughter of Jethro wasn't Moses' only wife. He had married an Ethiopian princess according to traditions of Josephus. And what happened? Well, Moses fled Egypt. His wife seemingly stayed in Egypt and remained there for 40 years. And then when Moses came back to bring the children of Israel out, she left with them. So to me, it seems obvious. She remained faithful and came out with them. And the prohibition on mixing with the other peoples and nations that were before the children of Israel in the land of Canaan wasn't to do with the fact that this person is better than that person. It was more to do with the culture of the people. To have a wife that is raised in paganism and the evil that goes with that, to include child sacrifice and cannibalism, because they didn't just sacrifice a meat and let it go to waste. And to have that person raise your child would undoubtedly lead your child into wickedness and rebellion, as we see. Look back at the Bible. How many times do you see? And the children of Israel were led astray, and the children of Israel were led astray. The kings of Judah and Israel led astray, led astray, led astray. Oftentimes it was by their wives and their mothers that they were pulled into this idolatry. And I'm not saying that to blame women whatsoever. It's their fault. As Adam watched Eve eat the apple, he was guilty in it too. He sat there and watched her, probably saying, well, if she dies, then I won't eat it. That's the attitude that we have. But to claim that races are the thing that brings people down, that's pretty disgusting to me. And that's the main problem I have with evolution. A lot of people don't realize that in the descent of man, the true colors of Darwin and Darwinism really come out. And you have to ask yourself, do you believe that we're all created equal? That we're endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, all of us? Or do you think that there are different models evolving over time? New man, Superman, Ubermenschen. Me personally, I look around and I see a degrading of all men. Not because of inbreeding with other races, but because of inbreeding with other ideologies and bringing paganism and falsehood into the halls of God's church. You have a good day.